Thank you. What a great crowd this evening. I'm Faye McIntyre, Dean of the Richards College of Business. I'm very happy to welcome you this evening. This is the BB&T Lectures in Free Enterprise. We have some guests from BB&T, and they are responsible for this. Without the funding, without their support, we would not be able to hold events like this. So if I could ask you guys to please stand up, and let's thank them for their support. Before we get going for the evening, I want to give just a couple of little housekeeping tips. At the end of the presentation, after the Q&A, if you want to have your card scanned for extra credit, we're going to have 2 lines going out either of these doors. That'll be after the Q&A, and you can see we do have microphones here. So if you have a question for the speaker after his presentation, please come up so that everybody can hear your question as well as his answer. And I think it's going to be a terrific evening. I've heard Kirk talk before, and he is really fascinating and a little bit scary in terms of some of the things he's going to talk to us about tonight. So it is my pleasure now to introduce you to the President of the University of West Georgia, Dr. Kyle Marrero.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome. It's a pleasure to see you all here, students, faculty, staff, community members. That's what this is about. At a university, it's where we engage in topics that are pertinent to what is happening in our society and how we're headed in a direction and that affects all of us. And I think tonight's talk, you're really going to see where we are in so many ways in the spectrum of what you deal with every day and how it can impact you. So we are so thankful that BB&T has helped us and continues to sponsor the BB&T Lecture Series in Free Enterprise. Now, I won't talk to you about our new strategic plan, but I have to link everything we do at this institution in some way to where we're headed as an institution. In our strategic plan, we call for us having an impact on the economic development of our community, of our region, of our state. Everything that we do as a university should be improving the quality of lives of you, our citizens. And lecture series such as this make that happen. So again, welcome. On behalf of the University of West Georgia. And now it is my pleasure to welcome to the stage Senior Vice President and Market Executive from BB&T, Mr. John McDaniel. John.
Thank you, Dr. Marrero, Dr. McIntyre, and we at BB&T very much appreciate all of you for your attendance at the spring 2014 installment of the BB&T Lectures in Free Enterprise. I'd like to take just a moment to tell you a little bit about BB&T and the purpose of the BB&T Lectures in Free Enterprise. BB&T is a top 10 by asset size United States financial services company. We're headquartered in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, but we operate as a system of 23 regional community banks. This regional delivery system gives us the ability to provide a wide range of financial services and products to the markets we serve. For instance, we would be honored to help you with your free student checking account. See one of the gentlemen down front. And after a few years, after you graduate from the University of West Georgia, you become the CEO of a multinational corporation, we can help you with mergers and acquisitions or your estate planning. So we look forward to doing that. But we like to say that we, in all seriousness, can be as big or as small as you need us to be. Now, for the purpose of these lectures, it goes along with helping BB&T to fulfill its stated mission, which is as follows: to make the world a better place to live by helping our clients achieve financial success and financial security, creating a place where our associates, our employees, can learn, grow, and be fulfilled in their work, making the communities in which we work better places to be, and thereby optimizing the long-term return to our shareholders while providing a safe, sound investment. This is core to the BB&T philosophy and very much the aim of responsible free enterprise, and it becomes a win-win for the company, the employee, the community, and the shareholder. At BB&T, we want to continue to forward that message and philosophy through select universities with whom we have partnered, and that is why we are here tonight. Now it's my privilege to introduce our speaker this evening. Curtis A. Carver, Jr., Ph.D., is the Vice Chancellor and Chief Information Officer for the Board of Regents of the University System of Georgia. In this capacity, he oversees a statewide educational infrastructure and service organization with more than 250 innovators and an annual investment in higher education of more than $70 million. He also provides technical oversight for the USG Shared Services Center. With a mix of military and academic experience, Dr. Carver has led the transformation of the University System of Georgia Information Technology Services by partnering with USG business owners, institutions, and other state agencies. The introduction of private cloud services, entrepreneurial offerings, new learning management system, new data systems, social media, unified communications, strategic partner engagement, and a focused, aligned financial model has been well received in Georgia and around the nation. Through his leadership, he's garnered national recognition for the University System of Georgia, including the following awards, and it is a very impressive list. 2012 Global CIO Breakaway Leader Award, 2012 and 13 Georgia State Technology Innovation Award, 2013 Information Week 500 Top Innovative Organizations, 2013 Information Week 20 Best Ideas to Steal, I like that one, 2013 End-to-End Champions of Innovation, 2013 Atlanta Telecommunications Professional Leadership Impact Award, 2013 Information Week Chiefs of the Year, and the 2014 Computer World Premier 100 IT Leaders, and 2014 Information Week Elite 100. Prior to the USG, Dr. Carver served in the U.S. military at the U.S. Military Academy, West Point. In a number of positions, he served there, including interim Vice Dean of Education, Vice Dean for Resources, Associate Dean for Academic Computing, and IT Program Director. Dr. Carver led efforts that were successful in more than doubling student participation in international experiences and substantially expanded programs addressing the needs of at-risk students. In addition, he coordinated significant revisions to the curriculum, facilitated the completion of the construction of a $72 million library and learning center, secured funding for a $182 million renovation of the science building, and supported the efforts to accredit the institution regionally. Carver's 27-year military career includes appointments as a platoon leader, senior signal officer, company commander, battalion operations officer, division deputy G6, and military mentor. He lived in Korea and Italy and was deployed to Afghanistan and Iraq, where he served as a strategic mentor to build their respective national military academies. Throughout his career, Dr. Carver has been engaged in the active leadership of military, academic, research, and service organizations. He served as a member of a number of governing bodies or executive boards, including the Computer Science Accreditation Board, Computer Accreditation Commission, multiple CIO executive summits, and the Federal Information Assurance Conference. He's a senior level member of the Association for Computing Machinery and the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers Professional Societies, and continues to play an active role in shaping the national agenda in technology, education, and the interaction between the two. Carver has authored many journals and articles and conference papers, as well as hundreds of plenary presentations, and is a frequent keynote presenter, has received numerous national and international honors and awards for military, teaching, and research excellence throughout his career. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming Dr. Carver to the University of West Georgia.
Thank you so much. I think the introduction could have been shortened to he's a troublemaker, and then after a while he's a talented troublemaker. It's a delight to be here, and thank you, BB&T, for sponsoring this event, and thank you, the Richards School of Business, for inviting me to come and speak today. My intent is two things. First of all, to make the cameraman uncomfortable. I'm going to wander out there with you. That's just how I speak, and the lighting won't be good, and they're going to get upset with me. The second thing is to make everybody in the audience uncomfortable. I'm going to talk about education. I'm going to talk about technology. I'm going to talk about some of the global trends that you perhaps see in your day-to-day lives. And some of those things are going to be a little bit frightening, and some of those things you should see the opportunities. But what I hope is you'll think about the world differently by the time we finish this presentation. Let's see if this works. It does. So that's all the things we're going to do. This is not important. Make that go away. These are some of the things I do. So my day-to-day life, I run PeachNet, which provides bandwidth to this institution and the other institutions within USG. Run the learning management system that all of you use, Desire to Learn, Galileo, your virtual library system, and lots of other things. During the introduction, we kind of talked a little bit about these awards, and the important thing about the awards are not that we received awards, because where I work, education doesn't take place. It does not take place in Atlanta. It takes place at institutions like this. It takes place in classrooms. And this recognition is a recognition of this system and what you're doing in the individual colleges and schools here. And the important part of that is its national recognition. Those are national awards. When you look at the Information Week Elite 100, there was one educational institution in the Elite 100. You, this system, the only one. There were no other educational systems recognized. There were no other colleges and universities recognized. You were recognized. When you look at Information Week last year, when they were doing the 20 great ideas and they were talking about the 500 elite IT companies, we were ranked 9th. Our system was ranked 9th. We were higher than any educational institution in the nation. We were higher than any Atlanta-based company, regardless of sector, in Georgia. And think about the competition. Think about the great companies that are based in Georgia. It's a reflection of the change that's taking place in education. And that change is fundamental. We've got some fundamental challenges as well. Look at this chart. So this chart is referring to what your parents make or what you make going to college. And if you look at the change that's occurred over time, if you're in the top quartile, your parents make a lot of money, you've done pretty good. If you're in that second quartile, between 50 and 75%, you've actually had the greatest amount of change in terms of college attainment. What happens if you're in the bottom half of Americans? There's been no change. We have not reached those students. If the best computer scientist, the best pianist, the best whatever is in that half of society, they're not going to have an opportunity to take advantage of that. They're not going to graduate from college. And the challenge with that idea is that we can no longer afford to waste that level of talent. We simply can't afford to do it. And this is something that has to change. I'm going to pull a couple of slides from Georgia State, a nearby USG institution. When you look at this, Pell Grants are an indication of financial need. Look what has happened in a very short period of time. That's a 6-year period. In a 6-year period, we've gone from 31% of the students requiring Pell Grants or financial aid to 58%, from a minority to a majority. Let's look at the impact of that now. And this really ties back to the presentation that occurred here last year and the presentation that occurred here 2 years. So if you're a junior or a senior and you got to listen to those, this should resonate. When you start looking at that unmet need, how it's grown over time, this is not the right chart. You want that going down, not up. When you look at the impact of that unmet need, look what happens to the graduation rate. The more need, it would make sense. The more money that you need, the lower your graduation rate. But a halving, you're going to cut in half the graduation rate for $15,000? A 30% graduation rate? Chart's a little bit hard to read, but that blue group, 60% graduation rate. The hope on the bottom means that they came in from high school on hope. They graduated with hope. They maintained their hope scholarship the entire time. What you don't see in that 60% graduation rate, that's only about 29% of the students. The rest of the students are over here. They came in with hope, and they lost their hope while they were here. 21% graduation rate. We've got some real challenges in education. And it's not a matter of large amounts of money sometimes, it's a matter of small amounts of money. This is your eye chart for today. People in the back, can you read it? No, you can't. Okay, the way to look at this, and I've got to make sure I mirror it the right way. So as you're looking at it, on the left side is a list of states and is a graduation rate with a 2-year degree or a 4-year degree, anything that's post-secondary. The part in red is Georgia. Is Georgia at the top of the list or the bottom of the list? Near the bottom, right? Not on the bottom, but near the bottom. On the right is a list of countries. That is our ranking of countries. Do you see where the United States is? Top of the list, bottom of the list? Kind of the middle. But when you look around us, so Denmark has a better attainment rate, Norway, Ireland, New Zealand. We barely beat out Finland. Hopefully no one's from Finland. Beat out the UK and the Netherlands. We're tied with Australia, Spain, and Sweden. Look at the next chart. All right, this is a generational chart. Old people like me, we are squares. Okay? Young people like you are triangles. Ideally, there is a line between the square and the triangle forming an arrow. And that shows that the young people are better educated than the old people. Trust me, the old people like it this way. They would rather that you be better educated than us, because then you don't live with us after you graduate. It's true, it's true. So, you get the idea. There are countries listed here. Let me highlight where the United States is. Where's the length of our triangle? Or our arrow? What it shows is that the young people in the United States are as well educated as the old people. The problem is everyone around us is moving. The young people are more educated than the old people. Look what's happened in Korea, the line all the way to the far left. They've gone from 12% educational attainment to more than 60% attainment. So this is a problem of global perspective. We have challenges, and what we have to say to ourselves is how we got to this point, the rules that we followed, we cannot follow going forward. We're going to have to change how we educate our youth. We're going to have to change how we engage our youth. We're going to have to create opportunity for the bottom 50% of Americans in terms of income. There's some other challenges that are taking place as well that affect and influence this. I'll walk downstairs here for a second. So you probably see this in the press all the time. You see these kind of newspaper ads of all of the security incidents that are taking place. Recently, we had over Christmas the Target attack, the 70 million credit cards that were given up by Target. The blue column should have made you laugh. You didn't laugh. Come on, it's kind of funny. I'm going to talk a minute or so about the offensive capability of countries. And I'm picking on China a little bit here, but I'm going to pick on the United States, and I'm going to pick on Russia in a minute too. When you look at the Target attack, the code was written in Russian. It was part of the source code, the malware attack was actually Russian. When you look at the complexity of that attack, not only did they break in, they had to take terabytes of data out. They had 3 servers staged in the United States so that as that information went out, it hit one of those servers, and then it went to many, many servers all around the world so that it couldn't be followed. The software that ran that attack, you can buy on the black market for about $1,000. 70 million accounts were compromised. Target actually was running software that detected the attack but didn't respond to it. They didn't think it was a real attack. And the reason why I put this up here is if you have in your mind this idea that these attacks are occurring from some kid in his mom's basement living on pizza and Jolt soda. That's not the picture you should have in your mind. The picture you should have in your mind is businessmen dressed in suits, sitting around a table, talking to each other about how they're working together to break into corporate accounts. You should think about organized crime, because the attacks are about money. Your computer is worth $3 a month on the market, on the black market. If they break in and have access to your machine, they don't care about your data. Well, they may care about your data. They care about the computing power that that machine has, because if they can sell 2 or 3 million machines for $2 or $3 a month, that's real money. So that's the nature of the attack. I had a chance to talk with Admiral McMullen, who is the former director of the NSA. This is his ranking of countries about a year ago, before Snowden, in terms of their ability to conduct offensive operations. And a year ago, who were we talking about? We're talking about Iran, who actually does not have the capability to attack other countries, but instead went out and bought it. They just went on the black market, said, there are some countries we don't like, we'd like to buy an electronic army to attack them, and did. China, who's always in the news, and they're always getting a bad deal out of this, but China's only at a 7 in terms of their capabilities to attack other countries. Russia, the United States, Great Britain are at a 10. And until Snowden, mostly didn't know about that. They didn't make any of the press. All the press was against the Chinese. When Admiral McMullen was talking about this offensive capability, what he said was every enterprise system he looked at, every big system that he looked at, the Chinese had already broken into. They had already left malware, and they could come back at any point and turn it on. They're at a 7. The United States is at a 10. Russia is at a 10. Great Britain is at a 10. That means most of the software you're using, somebody has broken into. What does that mean in terms of your privacy? What does that mean in terms of the nature of the next conflict we're going to have? Okay, this is not a rhetorical question. Can you defend against 100,000 hackers who are professionally trained? Let me define professionally trained. They speak fluent English. They were trained at an institution like this or an institution like this in Europe. They make as many grammar mistakes as you make, maybe a few less. They're professionally trained. Hopefully the answer is no. You do not have, if I were to go to the CIO, Kathy's the CIO here, by the way. If I was to go to Kathy and say, do you have 100,000 people on your staff defending? Kathy would say, no. Kathy would, not yet. Not yet. There we go. There we go. Next budget cycle. Okay, so there's not 100,000 folks out there defending, but you get 100,000 attacking. So what do I mean by 100,000? Why would I say that? Go Google this. Go look up the Mandian report. It's about a unit within the Chinese army. There are about 2,000 men and women in that unit. They own a 12-story building in China. It has 5 sources of power. Okay? It is not going to run out of power. It is connected to the Chinese national grid. It is not going to run out of bandwidth. It's their building. Look at the access that they had. The average access is what, 356 days? So on average, when they break in, they're there for a year. Longest case, they've been there 5 years. That means people don't even know they're there. And again, they're at a 7 on the scale of 1 to 10. There are 3 countries out of 10. Y'all probably know this. The first rule, and there is a math slide after this. Pay attention. Business school, we have accountants in the room, y'all can do this. But the first rule of the internet is agreement does not scale. What does that mean? The more people you get involved with a conversation, the less likelihood that you're going to have consensus or agreement. And if you scale this across the entire internet, it's possible to form pockets that can believe any crazy idea that you can come up with. Now, there's some plus sides to this. That means that really smart men and women can get together and collaborate and come up with solutions that have never been devised before. You can truly get great people together, and you can get people together that have some pretty strange ideas. Do you agree with this? Yes? No? Does agreement scale when the internet gets involved? So here's your math chart. It's the only math chart. You can deal with it. Just relax, okay? When you look at this, the red line is a normal distribution. Normal distribution of society. We have a mass in the middle, and we have fringe elements, and it scales. Now, which of the other lines do you think reflect the internet today? Have we become a green line, a deviant society where we've shifted, but it's still a normal distribution? Or have we become a blue line, a more concentrated, a more consensus-driven society? Or are we the gold line, where there's been a flattening of the norm, the consensus? What do you think? I hear some goals. Does anyone disagree that we have this flattening of society? Flattening of expectations. So what's the implication of that? What does that mean? I could make a joke about Congress, but I'll get myself in trouble, so I will not. But we have a flattening of that behavior. So it's the best of times for being a genius. You can find other geniuses to get together and work and solve problems. It is the best of times if you're a moron. Whatever your crazy idea is, you can find 1,000 people, 10,000 people that believe the same thing, no matter how crazy that idea is. When you look at a picture, I think it's the next one. When you look at a picture of the world at night, the part that concerns me is not the areas that are lit up. Can you see where the 38th parallel is, by the way? It's very distinct, the difference between North and South Korea. You can see from the lighting. It's not the areas that are lit up. The areas that are lit up is where you have the battle taking place between geniuses and morons, right? Just talked about that. The areas that are not lit up, people can just make stuff up. They're not connected. They're not connected to the rest of the world. Let me give you an example of this. When I was in Afghanistan and we were building the National Military Academy in Kabul, at one point one of the faculty was getting married, so I actually started teaching his class. And at one point, the student put up his hand and said, this is 2008, if President Bush gets mad at us, will he turn off the internet? Okay, I see some smiles in the audience. Y'all know President Bush, President Obama don't have the ability to turn off the internet. Okay, it doesn't exist. But think about the implications of that. If you believed that President Obama or President Bush could turn off the internet, a natural extension of that is that President Obama or President Bush or the United States controlled all the content on the internet. If you could turn it on and off, you could threaten people. Thus, everything on the internet must be approved by the United States. Think about it. What is your view of the United States if everything on the internet you believe the United States approved as a government? That's a pretty scary thought. Let's go back to the picture behind me. The areas in dark are the areas that should concern you, because in those areas, they're not connected to the internet. Whatever someone says in the local area is what they believe. They could potentially be taught what you would perceive as wrong their entire life. A completely different value set. I would argue that it is a battle for the truth. You have a perception of the truth. they may have a completely different perception of that truth that is not connected to the rest of the world. What was the number one target of the Taliban in Afghanistan? It's a trick question. What do you think? What's the number one target of the Taliban in Afghanistan? Shout it out. I teach. I'm used to staring at you until you talk. What do you think? You don't even have to put up your hands.
U.S. government?
Not U.S. government. That's a good guess. U.S. government? Nope.
Line communication?
Yes, exactly. The fiber lines coming in. Every time we would run fiber into Afghanistan, they'd cut it. They did not want a different point of view being introduced to society. So we were reduced to using satellite for most of our communications. But every time we would run it in, and if you look at Afghanistan, boy, there are not many good countries to run it in. We typically ran it in from Pakistan. But as soon as we ran it in, they'd find it, they'd cut it. Cellular technologies may help us with part of that, but you're exactly right. They were targeting, there was a battle of truth going on. So quick recap. And at this point, Faye is like, why in the world did we invite him? We live in a world of growing threats. Yes? Do you all agree? Shake your heads. Yes or no? There's a battle of the truth raging. Not a battle of opinion, a battle of truth that's raging, where large parts of the world aren't even lit up. We can't connect to them. We can't connect to the people living there. But it's a battle for the truth. That battle of the truth is being conducted by morons and geniuses alike from safe havens. Are we fighting that battle? Are we active participants in that battle today? We have a flattening of the norms of human behavior, and that's threatening the very existence of mankind. It really is. All right. Let's move on to opportunities now. Let's talk about the situation that we're fighting in terms of the global environment, some of the other changes that are taking place. First thing is we got the geniuses. We can always count on them. And perhaps they're going to bail us out, but that's probably not going to be the right approach. Let's go back and start with that college experience. When you look out amongst the audience, all of you are uniquely different. All of you learn in a uniquely different way. This idea that everybody's going to flow through one path, and that one path is going to lead to the next generation of leaders, probably not the right model. And what I would suggest is that if you were to group them, we have students that have an access mission, we have students that have a residential mission, and we have students that need a selective mission or a selective experience. And they all lead to student success. They're all equally valued. And they all influence each other. If you make a change in the access mission, it actually affects the residential experience and it affects the selective experience. So let me explain what those things mean. Yep. One more slide. So if you're looking at this kind of access pathway, then we need to build a pathway through higher education that allows those students with other demands on their time, and faculty with other demands on their time, to have a low-cost, flexible experience that fits the rest of their lifestyle. Does that mean part of it's online? Maybe. Does that mean part of it's mobile? Probably. Or on a tablet device. But it's this idea, and we talked a little bit about it during dinner. It's $100. It's $300. It's $500 that make a difference. How can we create opportunities so that $100, $300, and $500 does not lead to a student leaving the institution? How can we create opportunities so that those courses are available when the students actually need them? And how can we do this at low cost? I will tell you as a parent of 3 children, as long as there are 18-year-olds, there will be parents that want to send them to college. Oh, come on. It's true from both sides. Y'all were ready to get out too, right? So residential experiences aren't going away. But the challenge that we have with residential experiences is we want to use the latest technologies, but we need to graduate students without debt. We need to graduate so that at the end of that experience, you don't owe $100,000 that you're going to have to pay off for the next 10 years in an uncertain economy. You've got to graduate without debt. So we've got to figure out ways to maintain the quality, but lower the cost in terms of the services that we're offering. And then finally, when you look at the selective experience, we've got young men and women in Georgia that are the best and the brightest in the world. And they need experiences with a mentor-mentee relationship where they're working alongside the best of the best in the entire world. So we need to structure that. So how are we going to do this? Well, we've got to address each of these if we're going to win this battle for the truth. Education is the difference. Another reading chart, and actually I'm going to skip over this, but the idea behind this is actually complex. It's not like the folks that came before you are idiots. They're not. They've been working at this, but this is a very hard problem to solve. We'll talk about a couple of things that are going on. The students in the room kind of know this. Some of those who have graduated, not in the last 5 years, is what we're doing with learning management systems is fundamentally different than what we did even 5 years ago. If you look at the system that we're offering right now, 250,000 students are logging in to D2L every day. You guys. You're doing it in traffic jams. You're doing it on mobile devices. In fact, I was at a speaking engagement last week, and an instructor came up to me and said, about half of my class has taken their Friday quiz on their mobile device because he asked the class. You're generating 50 million hits a day. Again, if you do a little bit of the math there, that means those 250,000 students, on average, are touching that learning management system 200 times a day. 200 times a day. And it's all, the idea that it's an online class, it just goes away. Everything is online. Everything is hybrid. When you have a traditional class, there are components of it online. When you have a flipped class, there are components online. The idea is, how can we deliver that material so that people can use it? The other kind of economic model, if you will, if you look at the older systems that we used to have, typically when the instructors would ask for something, we in IT would come back and say, great idea, we'll get right on that, it'll be ready in 18 months. Well, 18 months is an awful long time. In the new system in the first year, we turned on 50 additional packages that are already there, that are already functional. Now, some of them you hate, like Turnitin, which checks for plagiarism, and some of them you like lecture capture, that will capture the lecture and put it up online so that the students can actually see it. But the point behind this is the business model has changed. How much do we charge for using Desire to Learn? It's about $4 per student. That's about what it costs. It's a completely different model than we've had before. When you look at, and this is really the delivery mechanism, everything that my group is doing right now is mobility first. Make it work on mobile devices first, then we'll handle old people's computing devices. But the intent is everything, the quizzes, the lecture, the movies, everything has to be delivered to that mobile device. And when you go back and you think about, remember the map of the world and all those areas that were dark? We're not going to run fiber to all of those areas. We'll lose that battle. It's going to be cellular. It's going to be a completely different technology that allows us to reach into that area. And I bring this up now because what an opportunity. If you're a business leader, if you're an educational leader, what an opportunity to relook the entire world and say, for the first time, we can reach those areas. We can deliver content to those areas. We can engage in the battle for truth. And it doesn't mean that our version of the truth is right, but it means that we can actually engage and bring people. And the economic growth that's going to come out of that, and the ability to harvest the talent on a worldwide basis, truly amazing, almost breathtaking. It truly is almost breathtaking to think that portion of the world, which is most of the world, is about to be lit up. And the applications that you write, and the companies that you start, and the ideas that you have are going to drive that. What an amazing time to be a student. What an amazing time to be a faculty member. You have the opportunity to reshape the world. The world. Because for the first time, we're going to be able to reach the world. And it's a scary place. Remember, I started there. You're going to have all these security hacks, and you've got all this other stuff going on. But what an opportunity. Let's expand on this a little bit. Affordable resources. When you look at the cost of books, I actually teach at Georgia State, and I teach in the MBA program, and I teach computer security, which kind of makes sense. But when you look at that particular course, the course book is $160 for that book. So what happens? The students actually know the answer to this. My class breaks into 3 groups. There's a group who can't afford the book, and they don't buy the book, and they depend on all the online material for it, and some of them graduate and some of them don't. They simply can't. $160 is a lot of money for the book. There's a group of students who can't afford the book, but they'll buy a foreign version of the book that's like 3 editions out, and they'll use that. And that's actually, they're worse off because they're getting bad information. And there's a group that buy the book and do quite well. Who writes the book, by the way, that I use? A professor at Kennesaw, a professor in our own system. How much of the $160 per book does he get? Pennies. Truly, that's how publishing works. You don't make a lot of money off of books. We have to change that. It makes no sense. We have to get our faculty together and co-author those books and put them online, or build it in as a mandatory fee, or go out and negotiate with the publishers and say, we're no longer going to buy this in units of 1, we'll buy it in units of 5,000. We'll guarantee the sale, and then dramatically lower the price. And if we do that, what they've said is we won't charge you $160 per book, we'll charge you $20. Think about the other component of this. How many of you don't have to put up your hand if you don't want to, but how many of you rent books? You buy the book for like 6 months. A couple of hands back here. How many of you graduate in 6 months? Nobody graduates in 6 months. I mean, graduates cumulatively, not cumulatively in 6 months. You go through 4 years of experience in 6 months. Nobody. To be honest, most of you graduate in 6 years, if you're going to graduate. You really should have access to that book for 6 years. And it should be accessible on your mobile device, so that as you're teaching or taking more advanced subjects, you can refer back to whatever class you were taking before. Again, we have to change that model. This idea of renting a book to get through a course as if it was some island of information, completely disconnected from everything else. We can't do that. We can't build islands. We have to build bridges between the islands. And to do that, the students need access to that material. Think of it from a faculty perspective. The faculty don't know what you've taken before, so they have to reteach what you've already learned. How boring is that? Again, we have to build bridges in terms of what we're doing. And again, the idea is these types of things need to be delivered on mobile devices. And the kind of cool thing, this place, this exact place, West Georgia, is really the focal point for this right now. Governor Deal approved $2.5 million this year, and it's multi-year money. That means we'll get $2.5 million each year to explore this. And West Georgia serves as the stewards for the E-Corps program. And that's where we're starting. Can we take the first 2 years of a college experience, can we take those courses in E-Corps and provide an affordable resource, a book that's built online, and allow the faculty to build it, allow the students to contribute to building it, and stop charging $160 for a book for one course. We have to change higher education. We have to change how we think about this. It's no longer the master on the stage, thus I wandered among you. It's not. It's a collaboration. It's a co-authoring of the future, because we both own it. You own part of your educational experience. The faculty, the administration, the supporters, we all have pieces of vested interest in this. We need to start working together to change higher education. Computer networks, another piece of this. Most of you are using PeachNet right now to have your access. And no, I will not apologize for what goes on in your resident halls. We actually limit the amount of traffic out of there because you'll overwhelm it. But the academic networks, you should never run out of bandwidth. And the kind of cool thing, going back to changing the face of education, the kind of cool thing is this year, Governor Deal invested in moving PeachNet so that it affects K through 12. No more haves and have-nots. No more schools without bandwidth. We're going to take the private cloud that we've got supporting higher education, and we're going to use that to drive bandwidth down into the schools. So let's think about that for a second. What are the implications of that? Dual enrollment, no matter where you were born in Georgia, of the entire curriculum, maybe the first 2 years. No more haves and have-nots. Everybody has an opportunity to take college classes while they're there. Not limited to one subject, to one teacher, but access to all of the subjects. No more blaming K through 12 for what comes into the university system. We can shape it. We can offer courses that allow them to bridge that gap. We can, instead of putting a state agency or an institution at the center of our focus, we can put the student there and say, you know what? It doesn't matter if they're in K-12 or in the technical college system or in the university system. They're a person. Follow the person. Figure out why they are different. And if you move between institutions, guess what? You're the same person. Have that information follow you. And then tailor that presentation of the material to your strengths and weaknesses. It's a fundamental difference. And the kind of cool thing, and we talked about it a little bit over a dinner. I'm trying to hide from the cameraman, but he's doing a really good job. See him shooting right down the line? He's doing good. So but we talked about it over dinner. We have 15 months to think about this. Because right now, the money becomes available July 1. Actually, they've already given me $1.4 million, so we got some money now. But we're working on it. But 15 months from now, I'll have that bandwidth in place. The schools are going to go from 3 megs to 100. And in a year or two, they'll go to a gig. And in a couple of years, they'll go to 10 gigs. To every single school in the state. Elementary, middle school, high school. All of them. We have 15 months to start thinking about what's the content. Let's get out of the blame game and start building content to help people succeed. It's a fundamental change. And we're right on the cusp of that. It may not affect you, you're already in college. It'll affect your children. Don't leave Georgia, it's all going to be here. We're moving towards predictive analytics. I'm going to use some Army examples. What we've used previously is descriptive analytics. Yep, it's the end of the semester, you failed. Not very helpful. Instead, we're going to move towards predictive. We're going to detect in the middle of the semester that you're in trouble and intervene to try to save you. Because it's so hard to bring someone else in, and we want you to succeed. And so the idea is, can we collect data on you that allow us to predict your success and then set you up for success? There's some great examples that are going on right now at Georgia State. There's some great examples that are going on at Columbus State, Valdosta, and a couple other places right now. But the idea behind this is, for the first time, and again, I teach at Georgia State. using Desire to Learn, I actually know how long you spend reading the material and discussion boards and the course content and how long you took the assessments. And I will tell you, for the first time as a teacher, I also learned that some of the questions I was asking, the possible answers, were tricking you, and I didn't know that. They weren't meant to be trick questions. But I'm actually getting the data, so now I know that's a poorly worded question. That's not the intent. It was meant to be an enabling question or a scaffolding question, and it wasn't. A lot of you were missing those questions. So I got the chance to rewrite those questions. So we're beginning to get the tools to help us to figure out, are we doing the assessment part correctly? Are we doing the presentation correctly? Are we tying it back together where it makes sense? All right, big chart, hard to read. The three things in the middle are the three big global trends that are taking place, and I'll read them to you. You've got consumerization taking place right now. Old people have laptops and desktops. Young people have mobile devices that the company didn't buy for you. Do you want to use the company's device? No, you want to use your own device. And you know what? I'm quite happy for you to use your own device. And you know what? If at 3 o'clock in the morning in pink fluffy shoes you want to be working, I want you to be working at 3 o'clock in the morning. I want to enable that behavior. Why? Because we'll get more things done. We'll be able to work together. So the kind of old rules that you've got to use my hardware configured my way, those things are going away. We want it to work on your device, and this idea of consumerization is a big idea. It is changing the world. I'll come back to this idea on my last slide. It involves toothbrushes. Just think about it. The second one is this idea of cloud computing, the ability to go to the cloud and access resources and pull things down. Again, powerful idea. You have practical experiences with this. You've used Desire to Learn. That's a cloud-enabled service. You've used PeachNet. You've used Galileo. Those are all cloud-enabled services. Google, a week ago, declared war on Microsoft and Dropbox and all sorts of other services. They said, Google, and I don't own stock in Google, but Google said, I will give you 100 gigs of storage for $24 a year. Wow, $2 a month. I'll give you a terabyte for $120 a year. That's crazy. It was 2 years ago, I was spending $1,000 to buy a NAS device to work at my house that provided a terabyte. They're going to do it for $120. I think I'll buy them. This idea of cloud computing is going to change a lot of things. A lot of things are going to move into that area. And then the last bit is data. We're finally getting data to make decisions and to use the decisions. And you know what the cool thing is? For those of you who are a little bit older or are following what's going on in the marketplace, right now the conversation is about bring your own device. Bring your laptop or your cell phone or your tablet to work. In 2 years, it'll be bring your own network. We're on 4G now, we're moving to 5G, then we're going to go to 6G. And at 6G, I'll still run PeachNet, but a lot of these other things I'm not going to get involved with. You're going to bring your own network. And then you're going to start bringing your own data. This idea that IT controls all the data, and we're going to serve as the translators of business needs, that's a dumb idea. So IT is going to get out of the way, and you're going to bring your own data, and you're going to be very sophisticated in evaluating that data. It's truly a transformation. And then you've got these other things going on for the first time. How many in here use Yelp? A couple of hands. Urban Spoon. Your navigation system is your phone. That's location-based computing. You used to spend $1,000 to get some crappy navigation system. You used to, when we flew into towns, you never knew where to eat. Now you know to eat. That location-based computing is a fundamental change. It's also a fundamental threat to your privacy. What happens every time you drive by a police car? Y'all don't know this, do you? What happens? Do they take a picture of you? Not of you. They take a picture of your license plate. and they run it, and then they mark it. And let's say that you're doing nothing wrong. They still know where you were at what time, over time, and they can track it. So we're going to have a war about privacy. We're going to have a vigorous conversation. Maybe war is too strong. Are you in the public domain when you're driving your car? Yes. Yes. Can they take pictures in the public domain? Yes. Is it an invasion of privacy? Matter of conversation. We need to have that conversation as a society, don't we? Some other things up there. Things are moving to real time. The social component of this, I've already talked about that, privacy and then global. The one mentioned on global, just an example of this. In the United States, can Google map out where your house is? Yes. Can they do it in Europe? No. Can you do it in the Far East? Well, they have a different idea too. We're going to have to come to grips with this global nature because we have different rules associated with how these areas all work together. But as you're thinking about changing the world, because what I suggested is you have an opportunity to change the world, to write applications, to engage in businesses, to be an entrepreneur, to reach parts of the world that have never been reached before. Keep in the back of your mind this idea of consumerization of data and cloud are fundamental changes. I had a professor once that, he was actually a one-star general and a professor, but he said the 14th century was a wonderful time. We invented books. It's a great technology. The 21st century is a wonderful time. There are other technologies. And your generation is going to be the generation that figures that out and how to use those things. Okay, I'm going to skip through this slide very quickly and move to computer games. Yep, we are. So, what game is this? Young people don't know. Old people. Come on. Doom, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, why do I put up Doom? Because in 1995, me and a female student at West Point took the Doom game and started using it to give quizzes. She was a student. She did a great job. Janet Gregory. Why? Why do games? Why use games to teach? This is 1996. And Doom back then, for the younger folks in the audience, was the most popular game. And what we did is, as you were going through the game, you had A, B, C, and D, 80 questions to go through. They were hard questions. You had to work together in teams. And as you were going through, if you opened the door incorrectly, there would be a monster, and he would chase you down. And sometimes you can run away from your mistakes in life, and sometimes your mistakes will hunt you down and kill you. And this game reinforced that philosophy. It is the only time in my teaching career that I saw a student look at another student, I'm not making any of this up, and say, "You didn't study last night, we're all going to die," and then punch the other student out. Cold-cocked, punched him out, pretty intent about the game. The interesting piece is down there in the middle. Because what we did is if you got through the 80 questions, and we turned off, for you Doom fanatics, we turned off clipping. You could not jump levels. You had to get through the 80 questions. But if you got through the 80 questions, you got to the last level, which was an exact replica of the Department of Computer Science and Electrical Engineering at West Point. That's actually me on the door there, back 15 years ago. And you could try to hunt down your favorite faculty member and kill them. You could also interrupt a department meeting. And I will tell you, this was the most unfair Doom level ever made. There were 4 boss mobs in the department committee meeting. Typically, you only find 1 in the entire game. There were 4 in one room. There were points where the students, and I never had the dexterity or agility, but the students were skiing in between missiles, shooting the entire time, trying to kill these boss monsters. Why? Well, maybe because they wanted to kill me for making them do this. Maybe because we were reaching them in a way that resonated with them. Maybe this was interesting to them. 6 weeks after the quiz, they were still taking the quiz. Every time they had to answer all 80 questions. but it was engaging to them. Guys, this is 1996. All of you were born at that point, but you were really young, many of you. We can do better. We should be able to do much better than this. Why don't we have a halo version of this? Seriously. We need to change how we do education. Not in some frivolous way, not to go kill your professor, but to engage in a different way that makes sense. And wouldn't it be cool if you would help build it? If you would be Janet and help build stuff like this. Okay. Skip all of this. Actually, I won't. Let me talk about this because I'll go back to security a little bit. How many of you have sat in computer security training? How many of you are awake? Oh, there you go. Many more are awake. Good, 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 good. So, how many of you remember anything at all from your computer security training? I don't see any hands up. Kathy, you got to work on that. So, oh, a couple of hands up. Good. You work for Kathy. No, you don't. So, I'm teasing. So, if we're going to do training, we need to change how you think about the world. We need to change how you think. That's the whole idea of education. There's a great quote. It's 2,000 years old. It doesn't belong to me. A mind is not a vessel to be filled. A mind is a flame to be lit. How do we light flames with technology? How do we light flames with great teachers? How do we provide an institution that lights flames, that burn brighter? Okay, back to computer security training. This is at West Point. Our solution was PowerPoint. We're going to do PowerPoint training. Was it successful? No, it wasn't. Nobody learned anything. And in fact, the longer you were at West Point, the more susceptible you were to phishing attacks. The freshmen were better than the seniors. Okay, that's a bullet you do not want to put on your resume. Okay? Come here and leave dumber. And this is West Point, the military academy, the best and the brightest of the entire nation. So what we ended up doing is change the entire model. No more PowerPoint, no more master on the stage, no more sage on the stage. Instead, we broke the students up into groups of 100 and allowed one student to attack the other 100. And if you failed, if you clicked on the link or downloaded the file or provided your username or password, he or she would walk sadly through the dorm, find your room, and sit down and explain what the signs were, what the telltale signs were. Look at the two charts. One's from 2003 and one's from 2005. The 2003 chart is PowerPoint. It's that master on the stage. The longer you were at the institution, the worse off you were. Look at the 2005 where we put the students in charge. Look at the dramatic turn down the longer you were there. The best message I ever got back out of this system was, "Dear Colonel Smith, I really don't think you're a colonel. I think this is an attack. And if I'm wrong, I'm probably going to get in a lot of trouble. But here are the reasons why I don't think you're a colonel and why I don't think you're asking for my grade." How can we unleash your potential so that it's activities like this, so that you fundamentally think about the world a different way, so that that flame is lit? Okay, there we go, toothbrush slide. So 6.8 billion people on, it's a little bit dated. We got about 7 billion people now. There 5.1 have cell phones and 4.1 own toothbrushes. This is not a commentary on personal hygiene, but there are a lot of people not brushing in the world, but talking on their cell phones. And I bring this up not to create a market. Bankers, please don't write down buy telephone or toothpaste stock. It's not the intent. The intent is you have a once in a millennium, a once in a lifetime, pick your hyperbole. You have a unique opportunity to reach a segment of the world that we've never been able to reach before. And it's not going to be easy. we've got lots of threats out there. We've got lots of people that have a different view of the truth, where stealing is okay, and breaking in is okay, and doing other things, killing people via suicide bombers is okay. But you have a unique opportunity to engage in that battle for the truth, to reach segments of our world that we've never been able to reach, and to fundamentally change our trajectory as a human race. And you're at the right place to do it. Are you willing to step up and do that? Are you willing not only to have your flame lit, but to light other flames? And with that, thank you for having me tonight to talk with you. Questions?
Wow, that was terrific. If you have a question, please make your way down to one of the microphones. I'll get us started. Let me just ask the question of the audience. Raise your hand if you have taken or are taking an online class.
Awesome.
How many of you did part of the work for that on your cell phone instead of a computer? Wow. How many of you are willing to teach me a new video game that I can use in my class? All right. Kurt, let me start the questions just by asking, there are a lot of opportunities for our students. There are a lot of opportunities for our faculty and for our business partners. How do we step forward and do things that we've never tried before? I mean, a lot of the things that you've talked about this evening are really radical concepts for many people in the audience. So how do we get out of that comfort zone and just move forward and try to change the world?
Okay. I think it's a great question, and I don't think there's one set answer to that. But I think part of that is understanding that some of the rules that previously applied don't apply anymore. Okay? Some of the silos that existed don't exist anymore. And that allows different groups to get together and collaborate and work together to commonly solve problems. And so what I would encourage is that start looking, it's kind of like the banking system that we talked about 2 years ago, or the micro ventures last year. Be innovative. Don't allow the previous rules to constrain your behavior, but do that in a constructive way. Work together to say what is working, what is not working, how can we do this? And understand that innovation, you're only innovating if you're failing. If you're not, you're playing it safe, you're playing it conservative. And so you have to set up an environment that allows that occasional failure, but that you learn from it, then you move forward. And if you can sense the failure early enough, you can adapt and move on. And so within our system, what we're trying to do, I say within our system, I have to be careful. What I think the chancellor and the institutional presidents are trying to do is present the students and the faculty and the administrators with a new palette of tools, a different set of tools to construct these experiences. Okay? So for the first time, we can reach back into K through 12. Okay? I'll work with Department of Education and the governor's office to create that. I need innovative students and faculty to explore that and come up with solutions that work within that space. We've talked about $2.5 million being allocated for affordable learning. We're going to set up a competition. I can guarantee you, we're going to set up a competition and let you form your own skunk works and be entrepreneurial and come back in and say, this is the best way to build the best textbook for zero cost to students, and talk about it. And the intent right now, we haven't worked all of this out, but is to have the governor present that award and to reinforce that success. But to create opportunities where before those, it just wasn't possible to do that. Again, I'll go back to the Desire to Learn example. Previously, if West Georgia said, hey, we found this cool new product, XYZ, and we want to add it to the previous system, that was 1.5 years. Now, half of that stuff's already turned on, and if it's not turned on, I can turn it on in a month. And what do I tell my staff? A month's way too long. I need to be able to do it in 15 minutes. Seriously. And again, that's not hyperbole. That's where we need to be. so that we can enable you to be creative, give you a different palette of tools, and let you use those palette of tools. And so, are you going to have to be courageous? Yeah. Are you going to have to be truthful? Yeah. But you have this opportunity, not only to shape those who come after you, but those who have never had access. Don't back away. Take advantage of that opportunity. Really take advantage of the opportunity. Think big. Think global. Carrollton is wonderful. It really is. But think about the world, and you can change it.
And great advice to remember that if you want to be innovative, you are going to fail at things, and that's okay. Failure doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It means you're doing something right. You're learning, you're innovating, and that's part of the process. I think part of what we do in education is we give you a grade, so we kind of train you guys not to fail. But in life, failing is not necessarily a bad thing. It is part of the process of growing. We do have some Starbucks gift cards for people who are brave enough to step forward and ask questions. So our first question.
Yes, ma'am.
Hello. My question is, with the predictive analytics that is being collected on students, how are you guys keeping that safe from the professional hackers?
Oh, that's a great question. So the predictive analytics right now is based on information that we're pulling from the student information system, and in some cases from the learning management system. And so those systems do have some defenses against them. It's foolhardy for me to say that those systems haven't been broken. I'm dealing with 2 security incidents that are ongoing right now. Most of those are not targeting the predictive analytics. They're targeting grades or sensitive information that can be sold. So what we're doing with the predictive analytics is creating the right triggers. But to your point, if someone could come in and change the predictive analytics, they start to win the battle of the truth. So kudos to you. I don't know that we've looked at it in sufficient detail, but I think that it will be a factor in the future in terms of our battle for the truth. If you change what you're using to make decisions on, you change the future. And so we're going to I'll take that back as an action item of something to look at in greater detail.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to put down the clicker. Yes, ma'am.
My question is about the chart you showed with the squares and the triangles.
Yes.
The understanding I got from that chart is that you want to target young people to be educated. Should we not seek to educate our society more holistically and not target just the younger folks?
All right, so great question. So the question is about, do we want to target everybody in society, or do we just want to target our youth? And I think the answer is, to your point, we want to target everyone. But what we want to do is provide opportunities for everyone to move forward. And I think, or maybe it's me, but I don't think it's me. I think most older people want their children to do better than them. They want to create additional opportunities, and they want their children's children to do better than them. That the best days of America are ahead of us. They're not behind us. And the best days of America are not with us being stagnant in our educational attainment, but that it's moving forward for everyone.
Makes sense.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Denise Pate. I'm a Carroll County School Board member. So I'm very interested in what you were saying about the K through 12 technology and all. We were one of the first school systems to do the bring your own technology.
Mm-hmm.
And what my question to you is how do we get the parents on board? Because I have gotten so much kickback from parents who are saying, what are you doing letting kids bring their cell phones and their iPads into the classroom? They think that that's giving, the prisoner the key to the prison. I mean, the prisoner's the key to the prison. So my question to you is how do we get parents to realize the importance of technology and how that, the kids are amazing when they get those devices, and the teachers, especially the younger teachers, really love to use the technology to enhance their lesson plan. So that's my question to you.
Okay, so it's a great question, and it focuses on how do we get all segments of society engaged in this learning with an understanding that each plays a part in that. If we go in and we say learning is only the responsibility of the students, Well, we don't need teachers then, and that doesn't work so well. Teachers play a part. Students play a part. Society plays a part. Parents play a part. And each of those parts have to reinforce this idea that empowering people to learn, creating opportunities. And what I try to tell my class, and I think what you'll see lots of instructors or professors or teachers say, is that we're going to go through this material. And my goal is that once during the class, at least once, you come up to me so excited about whatever we're talking about, and you want to go beyond what we've covered in the class. And when you go beyond, the question is, who is that mentor? Is it your parents? Is it the teacher? Is it other students? How can we create those learning experiences so that each of them play their role? I will tell you, and I'm going to retreat back to safer ground, the way we build labs, that's all changing. We need to be building in charging stations for mobile devices. We need to have battery exchanges. We need to, instead of saying turn off your cell phone when you come in, say turn it on, but then use it in a constructive manner. So I think it's going to require a cultural change. Those are a big thing, and that's why I started with, if you think about education 5 years ago and you think about education today, we're at a fundamentally different place. And if you think about it 5 years beyond, we're going to be in a fundamentally different place. When I'm looking at technology, I'm not building for Facebook. Facebook's for old people. I'm building for Instagram. And I'm building for 12-year-olds in terms of what they're going to be doing. And the problem is we've got to get the parents involved with that in a constructive way in terms of moving forward. Did I at least partially answer your question? I think the other piece of that is as we get technology out to every school, again, it's going to create, it goes back to kind of Faye's point or my answer to Faye, you have a different palette now to draw. And I think some teachers are going to do really, really well. Other teachers will struggle with it. Some parents will do very, very well, but it's going to create more opportunities for a more educated and more inspired Georgia. Yes, sir.
When you were talking about demographics of the internet or the bell curve and how it was being
Yeah.
flattened, and you put it, geniuses and morons, do you see it as a problem to solve or as a reality of the internet that we need to get used to and, create leverage out of? Because it sounded like you were, not afraid but seeing it as a danger, but then moved on from it. So should we be looking to live with it or solve it?
Okay, so it's a great question, and let me repeat the question for the audience. So the question is about, remember the one math slide, the bell curve chart? Is that a threat? Is it an issue to be addressed, or is it an opportunity? Fair representation?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a little bit of each. It's the way I think about it is sometimes it's like as a human race, we're now teenagers. We have grand goals, but we don't know how to communicate that and work together, and then that results in war occasionally or conflict, and it makes no sense looking from afar, but when you're in the middle of it, it's what happens. And so as a society, we're going to have to mature. That doesn't mean we become more conformed, but our means of interaction become hopefully less destructive. And I think that divergence that you're seeing right now, the fact that we have haves and have-nots, we have large parts of the globe not lit up, not connected, it's the ignorance that's causing the problems. It's the President Bush example with controlling the internet. More importantly, the perceptions that leads, that everything on the internet was approved by him. We have to compete against those types of things. And I think we can, and I think you're going to see movement, but it's going to be 3 steps forward, 2 steps back as we're going through that. And we're going to have some really dysfunctional things happen as we're going through. The question is, and I'm not trying to put too fine of an edge on this, will we kill ourselves before we mature as a society to figure out how to interact appropriately?
Good answer.
We'll know in the next 100 years. Yes, ma'am.
I was wondering how long it took to actually do the video games, and if you were to do it now, where would you start?
Oh, great question. So what we did is we told the commercial company that wrote the game, ID Creative, we were doing this. They sent us 200 copies of the game and an editor for free, and said anything we needed, they would give it to us. The student did it as a semester project. The student handled the quiz portion of it. I wrote the replica of the department. There were some pretty weird things in it. For those of you who are computer scientists, or music, the Ave Maria was playing in the background. In between all the gunfire was Ave Maria playing. The secretaries in our secretarial pool said, "Your paper? Oh, I shredded that." The professors would say garbage in, garbage out. So we remapped all of the sounds. We put in every faculty member's picture, and the room, it was a complete replica. But the intent, it took a semester. And then we wrote a tool that would write many quizzes. You could write as many quizzes as you want within it. And so I think, are you going to build Worlds of Warcraft in a semester? No. But I think you can mod Halo, and I think you can mod other games. You definitely can mod Candy Crush. So hopefully to make it much better. But what I look for is, let's do the quest for the OSI network model and make it funny and humorous and engaging so that you're playing it after the semester ends and you're playing it with your friends. And so I fundamentally think you can reach different people a different way and that you should do that. And I'm going to give you one anecdote while we're on this. Hopefully it'll relate. My oldest son, he's 26, is a global learner. Okay? Global learners assemble large amounts of information, and then when they get it, they're masters at it. Until they get it, they don't know anything. So my son always raced between A and F, A and F, A and F. And when we were at West Point, we actually took him, he's about 6 years old, we took him skiing. He took ski instructions, we paid for 10 lessons, and at lesson 6, his rhythm of skiing was, he's up, he's skiing, he's down. That was a real-time representation. He was up for about 3 seconds, okay? And that was it. And the instructor came back to us and said, look, all the other kids have moved off of the bunny hill. They're up on the main hill skiing a blue slope now, because they had moved them off green into blue. You need to, this isn't going to work. And we said, luckily, my wife and I, we paid for 10 lessons. You're going to teach him one-on-one now, but we paid for 10 lessons. And at lesson 7, he got it. At lesson 7, he got it. And all the pieces fit. In lesson 8, he's on the big hill. In lesson 9, he's ski jumping. How many kids are we losing because they get an F at the end of the semester because we taught them the wrong way? We didn't realize they learn a different way. And we didn't build a structure that allowed them to learn that way. My son's a pretty decent skier today, by the way. And that's only because, I guess we were jerks, and we waited. But my oldest son is not the only one that way. And we've got to start recognizing that. One last story. I didn't build it in here, but in 1996, West Point, the military academy, had an adaptive interface based on learning styles. So when you went into a course, it surveyed your learning styles and presented the material based on how you wanted to learn it. And what was the result of that? We had about 18 different tools we were using. If you surveyed 100 students, which we did, every single student ranked every single tool as the absolute best tool for learning. And every single student, not every single student, and another subset of students ranked every single tool as the worst tool to learn. Students are different. This idea of one path through the material makes no sense. And we need to figure out how we can use technology. And dadgummit, if the military academy could do it in 96, we can do it today. Military wears rank. They're all hierarchical. They all march in formation. We can do this. But we're going to need your help to help us figure out how to do that. Did I answer your question? 2 vignettes. You did well. 2 coffees. Okay. Other questions? Yes, sir.
Referring to the triangles and squares chart,
yes.
I remember that Korea and Italy and Japan were high up on the list.
Yes.
And I know that they have programs where they bring recently graduated college students to come and teach their younger kids, you know, how to speak English, etc. And they had very large jumps. So would you think that maybe like a mercenary style of, you know, bringing in talent from other countries to teach our youth would be a good idea as well?
Well, okay. So the question is about, I love the term mercenary. I'll have to work that in. So the question is, can we bring in youth from other nations to be mercenaries in our educational experience? I would argue that we're actually doing that. If you look at graduate school, when I went to graduate school, I was like one of 3 Caucasian white guys. The other 27 were not. They were all international. When I went to my graduate degrees are from Texas A&M. So we're just not leveraging it. And we're not creating opportunities. Going back to the K through 12 example, you should be able to take, what year are you in?
I'm a sophomore.
Perfect. You as a sophomore should be able to reach back to K through 12 and influence students and tell what you learned along your path, because it's very valuable to them. And me saying it, it's like Charlie Brown's teacher, blah, 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 blah. It's not meaningful. I won't be effective. You will. And so how can we create venues where that voice is heard? And what I have suggested in this presentation is within 15 months, I'll have the pipes in place for that to happen. I'll have the pipes for Khan Academy to not only be effective here, but be effective at K through 12, regardless of how much bandwidth they have at home. How do we create that personal touch? How do we become, again, I like your word, mercenary about this? How do we become intentional about this and create opportunities? I will tell you, you have to start earlier. Let me give you one of the most difficult problems we're facing right now, getting diversity in computer science. They're all white guys like me. They are. There are very few women involved. There's some. You've got Kathy here as your CIO. But statistically, it's a minority, and people of color, very, very difficult. Very, very difficult. We have to start earlier. We have to provide role models. We have to say, you can be successful in this field. And the only way we're going to do it is with you talking back and influencing it through social media and providing new Instagram Plus that goes back and is focused on creating those opportunities. Faye and I were talking, I think, earlier on. I'll go back to West Point example. What do you think West Point uses Skype for?
I have no idea.
Teaching languages. We hook up with natural speaking folks. And to your point, we link up our graduates with our kids that are still at West Point. So 1 year after they graduate, while they're still on that battlefield in Afghanistan and Iraq, they're Skyping back. And it'll be a class of about 15. And the platoon leader will present, this is the problem that I'm dealing with right now. And they'll talk about it in that group of 15 via Skype. And the end of that conversation is always, 18 months from now, you will be me. What are you going to do for the next 18 months to prepare for this? Because all of these guys and gals behind me are going to depend on you. Mercenary. So that's what we need to be able to do. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
We have time for about 2 more questions. So we got one here and then one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I understand and I fully stand behind a sense of development that kind of does a group think, and not a group think, crowdfunding type that develops a competition of innovation and innovational thinking. So I'm not challenging it. I'm not challenging it, but how does that affect financially the students? Because I understand in the beginning with your charts and how income levels, that affects us. That affects, I understand you're moving towards maybe with when you said free books and stuff like that. Long term, great results. Short term, how will that affect us as students? Because we're going through that now, and I have a little sister who's 16, so she'll be going through it in 2 or 3 years. So how does that affect us?
It's a great question. So let me use the free textbooks as an example. My target for deploying that is not 18 months from now, it's September. It's fall semester. So fall semester, we're going to have some books across. And by December, the end of that, we're going to have the winner of the first competition. And then we're going back and asking for more money. And eventually, and when I say eventually, quickly, because we'll get more money to sponsor more competitions, to sponsor more teams. What I have to do, and I'm not trying to undermine or I'm not trying to slight or to lessen the challenge. I've got to give faculty a common palette of tools to build these materials. All right, that's hard. But we're not targeting, what year are you in?
Oh, I'm a senior, but I'll be a senior again next year.
Okay. I'm targeting fall semester. Fall semester, we're going to have some of those ebooks in place. Fall semester. And our goal, if you talk to Dr. Davis, who's my boss, Chief Academic Officer, he wants to take the 40 most popular, most attended courses and move those. That's his initial goal. And so this isn't a 5-year plan thing. This is a next semester thing. We've got to move with a degree of agility in terms of what we're trying to deploy. Where it is 15 months or 16 months is what we're doing with PeachNet and some of these other things. The predictive analytics we talked about. 7 institutions have implemented one solution. Another 7 are piloting a second solution right now. We're deploying that literally right now. Those institutions all go live over the summer. So we have to accelerate. We can't take a century to deliver this. We can't take 10 years. Hopefully your sister, when she comes here or another great USG institution, won't even recognize desire to learn because we will have gone so far in that period of time. So it's not a decade, it's not a year, it's 6 months from now we're going to roll out some solutions, okay? And you can get my card and hold me credit because you're going to be here next year as a senior and make sure that we actually do it, okay? Yes, sir.
I know you had done a lot of talking about expanding and bringing your own devices into the learning environment, bringing your own network eventually.
Yep.
How do you plan to do like the controlled environment and the security on that, particularly I guess with like K through 12? I know for me, like when I was a kid, I got distracted every time I turned around. What's the way to have that still controlled but still have opportunity for growth and development with new innovative ideas?
Okay. You're not going to like my answer, but the answer is you have to be relevant. The material being covered has to be relevant. If you've got the class engaged, if you're lighting flames, they're not going to be in Facebook. They're going to, well, they're not there anyway. They're not going to be in Instagram. They're not going to be chatting. Or maybe they are chatting, but they're chatting on the topic at hand. So we have to do that engagement, and I think part of that is, and it goes back to an earlier point, we have to have the engagement of the parents reinforcing the value of that. We have in the United States right now a certain degree of anti-intellectualism. We do, and we're going to have to combat that, whereas as a society, working together to focus on that learning and giving them new tools to solve problems. You just have to think about the world a different way. And I think by providing those tools, we'll overcome that challenge. You're right. Some people are going to be disruptive. You then bring them back into the fold and engage them. I will tell you, when they were answering questions in Doom, I didn't have any problems. I didn't. And in the course I teach right now, I've got, 70 YouTube videos that people are watching and studying that material in their own time. And when they come into class, we have a very different conversation because they've already gone through that material. I'm not saying the way I'm doing it's the right way. What I'm saying is our means of engagement have to be, how do I light flames? Not how do I fill vessels. If engaging in activities that light flames, you're not going to be distracted because you're going to be on fire. Hey, a reference to, you know, popular movie. How's that? Okay.
Perfect. Let's thank Dr. Carver one more time. And we do have a small gift to thank you.
Thank you so
We
much.
appreciate it very much. Did a terrific job.
Thanks. Thank you.